What's up, party people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time. DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote. And maybe you could have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Today on the program, I have Ishah Laurah Wright. You know you've heard that name before. If you've been listening to the podcast for quite some time, you know you've heard that name. So stick around. We're going to find out what's going on with Ishah Laurah Wright in the next few minutes. This week's shows, I will be at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. My usual Friday night gig, the video dance party karaoke jam. Full bar, kitchens open, pool tables, pool tournament on Friday nights. So if you want to try your hand at playing pool and possibly make some money, I encourage you to check out the Rab. Friday night, Conway, Arkansas, at 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the AM. All right, that's enough intro. I really want to get into it with Ishah Laurah Wright. I got her on Skype, so if you're listening to the audio version, I encourage you to check out the video version on my YouTube page, youtube.com/user/KeysDAN. All right, Skyping Ishah Laurah Wright now. All right, yeah, you're kind of far away. Am I behind the velvet rope?
Yes, this is actually where red carpet events take place in Hollywood, California. I photographed supermodeling here before, about 4 years ago, and this is it. I am actually in the projection room, one of them that we use. I'm not disclosing which one, so to protect security reasons. For example, here is a projection reel where the film used to be projected onto movie theaters after the celebrities, my fellow celebrities, and I would enter through the red carpet into the theater to see premieres of us, to see how our movie turned out after being edited, and to get our first view of the whole thing in its entirety. So to see the fruits of all of that hard work. And then that's when we used to use film like this. Now, of course, we've gone to digital. So this is a wonderful vintage museum piece equivalent. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
Ishah Laurah Wright coming in hot. I like it so much. You're like a bundle of energy, and I expected nothing less from you today. I know it's been a long time since we've chatted, at least on the What Makes You Famous podcast, and I know we talked on the phone for a little bit here and there, but you've been bouncing around all over this planet, as far as I can tell, from the outsider's view, looking at social media and what have you. What is it that's going on in the world of Ishah Laurah Wright? Give the people an idea of where you are right now, what's happening right now.
Alrighty, besides me being in Los Angeles, actually Hollywood, California, which is right across the border of Los Angeles, I have, since I talked to you last on our last podcast that we did, I have gone to Arkansas, where you are, and I was in actually right where you are. And I'm so sorry that we did not get to spend any time together in person, because you're such a great friend and I cherish our friendship. I went to Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas, for many different reasons. One of them is because of even just the name, Hot Springs, because Hot Springs brings people's focus and attention to the fact that God put in the earth, in the United States of America, hot water that comes out of the ground so hot that it's sanitized. And I believe that that is God proving to us that he wants every human being, every individual, to have hot water, to be able to have hot water for free, because he gave it to us for free there. And right now we have technology really to be able to provide that to the world, and it's desperately needed. If anyone's ever tried going camping where there's no hot water source, pretty soon they will learn how important hot water is.
You know, I remember Ishah Laurah Wright. The first time that I went to Hot Springs, I think it was back in maybe just a little after the turn of the century, 2002, 3 or something like that. I went on. I was visiting. I wasn't living here quite yet. I was still living in South Florida, in the Florida Keys. But I came up here, and the first thing that I wanted to do was put my toes into the hot water. There's fountains all around Hot Springs, and I put my little toes in there. I don't know if that could have been frowned upon. They probably want you to use the facilities that are selling the hot water back to you that comes freely from the ground, as you stated.
But actually, besides the places that are selling the hot water, I have pictures I posted online that in front of USA Congressman Bruce Westerman's office, who is a great congressman, by the way, in front of his office, he still today has a fountain where people can come by with huge jugs emptied out and fill the hot water into the huge jugs, unlimited amounts. So people drive up with truckloads of empty jugs and fill them. Some stores and restaurants actually load up that water, and they seal it immediately so that it's safe drinking water, and they take it into their restaurants and stores. That is even during the shutdown, because there's less population in Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas. So there's less people that could even have virus to be able to spread it. So they were allowed to be a little more relaxed with the rules even during the shutdown, which is fine for them. I'm glad, though, the people that did shut down did, for their safety, because I care about them.
Ishah Laurah Wright, if I'm getting you correctly, just like when they tell you to boil water because it's unsanitary, unsafe, to try to get all the bacterias out of it, you're saying that the hot water, the boiled water from the earth, is sanitary? It's good to drink once it cools down?
It is so hot that it is literally steaming. You can see the steam rising even in the summertime when it's over 80 degrees. A lot of times we only see steam coming from water if the room is a certain temperature or outside is a certain temperature. This, you see the steam all year round in any temperature. So that's how hot this water is. In fact, when you put your toe in, you might have gotten a shock, and most people do, because it's so hot that if they want to bathe in it, actually they have to put it in a tub and step in the tub. So it's excellent, though. It's filled with minerals. Yes, it does sanitize. Of course, if someone has the ability to use a hand sanitizer and much more, I definitely recommend that. And there are many other sanitization protocols I could go over with you, because in Florida, you made me a doctor over there, all of you, my fellow Floridians over there, way back when. And that's another thing that brings me to, it ties in with the first question you asked me, what I've been doing. When we last spoke online on the actual podcast, I was in Roanoke, Virginia, with some relatives of Bill Clinton, and they are close first cousins of Billy. He was a USA president, as we all know, 42nd president of the USA. And he also grew up in Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas. That's also, as we talked about before, where I brought my kids up there as well as in Florida. And so they had both like a second home, one of them. And we got to know the Clintons' friends very well, and Billy's pastor very well. I put photos of him online with me as well. And even though I'm Roman Catholic, he's Baptist, but he agrees, Roman Catholic, we're really in unity, and that's good. And the Clinton's cousins sent me to Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas, because they said I did such a great job in helping their Secret Service without giving any Secret Service names here, that they said my job was so good, they wanted me to be able to go there and relax, because it's that laid back kind of atmosphere like we talked about, you know, slow, small town. And when I got there, however, I was the equivalent of ambushed. And I'm not trying to cause dissension by bringing up something negative that's in our country, but sometimes we do actually more good by addressing things that need to be addressed, especially something as severe as this. I went with the blessing of the Secret Service. It would be easy for anyone to call any White House administration, which currently is the Biden administration, and say, hey, can you verify this with the Clintons' first cousins, Keith and Karina's Secret Service? They don't have to, the White House doesn't have to give the name, so it's not breaching any national security to verify. And so it's just fact. And when they sent me there, they had that authority to agree with me to do that. And so people should have respected their wishes and mandates regarding a warm welcome for me in Arkansas. And when I got to Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas, it was not at all a warm welcome. I literally endured what so many people have endured in different parts of our country where, and I researched it, and sometimes it is KKK related. Someone did threaten to noose me, and he had a tattoo of a noose on his forearm, huge. Usually when someone has a tattoo like that, they really are a believer in that, or they would not place that on their body. And he pointed at me and said that. And when I was growing up in Florida, along with you, Dan, and singing in the Keys with different bands and filming, I filmed there. I won a bikini contest there, things like that, which is fine with Roman Catholic standards, which is good. When I did that, I was actually so white that it took me about 2 months or more to get a tan. And there is a tanning lotion now that is available that is sunless, and it makes someone darker without the sun, and it's not the stain, and it will last longer than the older products used to. So the Secret Service by Bruce Westerman, Congressman Bruce Westerman, which without saying their names, the Secret Service, but again, it's easy to verify by calling the congressman because he is not hidden his identity, national security wise. He's our representative in Arkansas. So, and a good one at that. So his Secret Service did say they did believe that because of my tan, people did think that I'm not 100% Caucasian, although I am. It shouldn't matter. And it's a real severe threat that the United States has been facing for a long time. And while I say that, I do want to say people should not react in the opposite extreme. I've seen that too, and that's as much of a threat, where people have then developed a hatred toward us Caucasians, and then they want to attack and kill us as well, murder us, which is not right either. That's not the right reaction. I am not a threat to any non-Caucasian. I've had huge campaigns with, like you and I have talked about before, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s son, and one of his sons, and one of that son's nephews, that's an NBA player, and that is awesome. So I've really stood up for civil rights, yet when I went to specific locations in Hot Springs National Park, I saw that opposite extreme as well, that wanted to kill me just because I don't look 100% black either. So that's totally wrong. It's a clear and present danger to the nation, as well as the KKK crisis in different parts of our nation. Hot Springs National Park is named a national park because just over 100 years ago, when the Civil War was won, it became a national park to say we are not a part of the Confederacy. We are part of the Union National Army. So a lot of pro-Confederates hate the national park being named national park and want to take it back. And this has been for years now. It's honestly, when I have researched it, Daniel, a lot of times when I see domestic terrorism, either the one extreme or the other that I've just mentioned, unfortunately, a lot of times it is the people have low IQ, severely low IQ, where they do not even understand basic right and wrong sometimes and human logic. And sometimes they are taught in the areas that there's a stronghold of one or the other, they're taught by those entities that are terrorist, domestic terrorists in nature, and they teach all kinds of wrong things. They'll say they're for the Bible, some of them, but they twist the scripture so out of what it's supposed to mean that it's dangerous. The Bible's not dangerous. The Bible's one of the best, probably the best. Actually, yes, it is the best book in the world. It's what our USA Constitution is built after. Our laws are made of for all of the USA and the USA territories. So it is great. And it gives us the freedoms we have today. In fact, it gives us the USA constitutional freedom that I have to talk to you right now. I'm not going to breach any national security. And like I said, that is all easily verified and verifiable. And I won't be giving any names here of anyone that's undercover. So definitely no breaching. There are specific ways that criminals operate, whether it's those domestic terrorists I've described to you, or even the sex slave gangs in LA, the Bloods and the Crips that we've talked about before, some of which are foreign hostiles. Definitely not all foreigners are hostile. Some are absolutely wonderful. The CIA and the military and all entities of the USA, we've been recruiting people from all different walks of life for years. So the fact that Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas, has gone so backwards and is so dangerous to go to is very sad. It is not the desire. When people experience any of these types of criminal behavior, it is not the desire for those who are at the top in USA government. I can tell you that for a fact. And our elected officials are usually given such great security that I do want to recommend, if someone ever does have a problem, go to your elected official's office in person if you can during the hours they're open, because it took me doing that several times for a long time to even get to be able to have the attacks stop so that I could even leave. Some of the attacks are what I was actually told would be good to tell the public many years ago, actually even over 10 years ago, that I had been meaning to. And so these are the ways that a lot of criminals will attack. It's called the geocentric model. It means centric is like circular and a center. So the geocentric, geo is like where we get different words based on the globe. So this looks like a globe in the middle. In the middle right there, and then around it is circling the circle, different tactics of the enemy. In the middle it says victim. It represents the potential victim, and the different tactics range from, as you see up top, the dollar sign. They will attack what they can find out and think are the sources that the victim gets money, because if they can control the money of anyone, it's easier to control and victimize the person, unfortunately. The communications is another one. They will try to get someone's password and hack in, and to be able to even change the password so the person can no longer use their social media or other to communicate. And even if it's not permanent, that disruption, it's also causing a problem with the person's time. It's wasting time. And if they cannot completely kidnap and kill someone right away, a lot of times they will waste the time of a person in different ways till there is no more money left. And I could actually do an interview over 1 hour on each of these, all the different horrifying, some of them, tactics that are unfortunately utilized by terrorists. They will try to stop a person's housing. They will find out how do they pay for whatever housing they do have. If the person tries to go get housing or apply for a loan, all different types of tactics. Character assassination is one of them that you saw there. Try to make the person look non-credible by making them look like immoral or other, or like a liar or a fraud. You know me for years and years as celebrity Ishah Laurah. Some areas I go to when people are on the attack, like what happened when I got to Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas, without some of those most famous people being right next to me, People want to say, oh, you're not really a celebrity, you're a fraud, because then I cannot say, well, to make money, I will do an advertisement for your product, your local produced product, or your local produced service. And because I'm a celebrity, everyone in America and the world knows we would get money for endorsing your product, a lot of money usually. So I'd be able to live and survive, and even well, for definitely even over a year. So money wouldn't really ever be a problem to me, because thankfully in America, I was able to be born here and become a celebrity, and anyone's able to do that in America. It's one of the beauties and awesomeness of America, and as you know, and also transportation. The type of criminals, like I said, no matter what their motive, and sometimes they don't even know they're criminal, it's just low IQ. They actually think, oh, like fellow government, even of my fellow government, will even think in some areas where they are more low IQ in that area, they will say, oh, great, we'll be just teaching her a lesson by doing this and that. And they think target practice against me is keeping me on my toes. That is totally illegal. And some of them are actually taught that illegally and wrongly by teachers. So that's not right. And when I was near the Clintons, I could just walk over to them and say, hey, Keith and Karina Clinton, need help here in this area. And it was done. And when I was, though, a certain amount of miles away from them, things would start getting worse. People would start getting bolder and trying to attack me. Even sometimes within a certain amount of square footage, even just 250 feet away sometimes. So what I have learned is that it's really important to keep specific types of people together in person or in a very close square footage proximity of one another, even for the safety of the area and of them. And so no matter how famous that I am or that you know I am, if I go to a certain area and I'm not with other famous people around me, I've received attacks, unfortunately, and very severe. I've been stabbed with a knife. Some of this you might want to decide to put a disclaimer on. It might be for maybe mature audiences only. Because that's the unfortunate true fact. Some of the ways that people also attack different types of criminals is to try to find a person's support network, like you saw here, their family or friends, to try to divide and conquer, basically, illegally against them. They'll try to attack health and wellness. If they can't attack health and wellness, find out how is the person staying healthy and well. So are they getting welfare? If they're getting medical welfare, they try to attack the medical welfare. I've seen people literally go to a food stamp office, even in Los Angeles, California, and try to prey on the poor because they think they're easier pickings. We kind of talked a little bit about that before. And they will literally tell the food stamp office, don't give them any food stamps. We know they really have money, or they really this or that. And it's not even true. That's not even a legal way to dispute something. The victim often doesn't even know that's been said about them. So it's totally taking our constitutional due process laws out the window. And that's a severe criminal attack against America. And what I have found, it may sound extreme. However, I do believe it is the only way to combat some of this. It is to have even more money put out through welfare, more money put out through the churches, and to constantly, to me, that's an equivalent of shooting at the enemy with artillery, but with food instead, and supplies and clothing and personal hygiene items and much, much more instead. And that is one of the things that, if elected president of the United States, that I do want to implement much more welfare, and also to stop the over-regulation, meaning all of the paperwork and verification. By the time someone gets through that, they're starved to death, a lot of them, or the gangs have just captured them because they have no housing even to go back to after they're trying to fill out hours worth all day long of applications. And there some of them that are there because they're homeless. They have no home to go back to that night. If they don't get that house right away, like Section 8 pushed through that same 8-hour period that the office is open, or whichever amount of hours it's open, they are back on the street and they can be stabbed to death overnight just by falling asleep, because how they're going to protect themselves if they're asleep on the park bench. So the overregulation definitely needs to stop. It has been improved in many areas. However, in areas that do have predominantly a KKK stronghold, the overregulation is like nothing I had ever seen before. And even in Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas, unfortunately. And you're doing such a great job, you and so many of the people where you're near Little Rock and Conway, Arkansas. And I have had a wonderful time over there, and everyone was nice to me and right away cooperated with me, fellow government, right away. What do you need? You need a ride? I got the transportation, pulled up I didn't have to say a word, it was like, and see, the thing is that Billy was governor there before he became USA president. So there, he's very respected, regardless of political party that yes. People are. A lot of people are actually very conservative there, and that actually has its good points too. I like some conservative points from the Republican Party and some of the Democrat Party. In today's world, I do believe we need to much faster go back to some basic laws that we had way back when, even in the Jimmy Carter days and the Ronald Reagan days, some of them. For example, Ronald Reagan was huge on saying, say no to drugs. It was not a question in America if marijuana was a drug or not. Yes, it's a drug. Yes, say no to it. Doctors should not ever be prescribing it. It is researched and even proven, even before I was born, back in the hippie days in the 60s, before I was born in 68. By the time I got here, it was a known fact. Marijuana is definitely a danger so much to the nation. It becomes a national security issue with all of the car crashes that will occur, in addition to drunk drivers. If you have people now driving high, I mean, this is a no-brainer, meaning this should take not even a high IQ to realize that that's true and to stop marijuana usage in this country. It is like someone just really wanted to set a bomb off. It's called an implosion. Oh, let them kill themselves from within. Let them legalize marijuana. Now, someone over 20 years ago, and it was in the media, did threaten me that I would be framed by someone putting marijuana in my car trunk. And they said that because remote controls, there's universal remotes that can open up anyone's garage door. They said it's really easy to do. And that's not good. So it's good to know the different enemy tactics to be able to better combat the enemy. And one of the ways, though, some thought we can address the problem of people illegally framing others due to color of skin, which should never happen. Framing should not happen, period, ever. It's totally illegal. It's always been illegal. Some racist areas that have racist strongholds, they actually think that framing is totally lawful and part of their job. It's like, what? No, not at all. It's never been legal in America. It's never been constitutional because it's never been biblical if one really looks at the Bible with the heart of the Father God and Mother Mary. And a real good parent would never want to see that happen to their child. So we should not want to see it happen to our nation. We should love our nation enough and the world enough to not want to ever see that happen to anyone. So some people, though, went to the opposite extreme and said, well, then let's legalize marijuana because then no one can get framed for it and in trouble. But unfortunately, that is like saying, then let's legalize LSD and heroin, which we should not either. So that is not the real answer to the problem. The real answer is, one, our free speech and our freedom of press constitutionally, like me talking to you here, and people sharing this video, getting the word out. Framing is not allowed. And so it's educating people. There are a lot of actually good people sometimes that I've seen in areas that are racist. And if I explain to them, this is the law, you didn't know that? We can't frame. And there's no need to frame, because if someone's really guilty, the process will work the right way, the right process. There's no need to be underhanded and to frame people. So people, some of them were shocked and they said, really? And it reminded me of the scripture in the Bible where Jesus says, some people he found to be like sheep without a shepherd. I quote, sheep without a shepherd, meaning they do want to follow him. They are his sheep in their heart. They do want to do the right thing. In other words, they want to do the good thing, which is good of them to want to do. They just don't know what the good thing is because they've been taught so wrong for so long in so many different ways in certain areas. Another big problem is in racist areas, they like to say you're trespassing or loitering a lot, even if you're not. And there are times where there needs to be public passages and walkways from one street corner, not just to another, but sometimes several blocks. If someone doesn't have transportation, there's many different scenarios that it applies. And the person gets tired and literally their feet are tired and they just sit down like Rosa Parks on the bus. And they said, move to the back of the bus because of your color, lady. And she said, my feet is tired. She just couldn't move anymore. She was exhausted physically. Sometimes our feet is just tired, Dan, no matter what color we are. So rules and regulations, policies and procedures, whether government or non-governmental, even just a business mom and pop shop entity, they all have to be united with basic principles for humanity's sake. If someone is walking and their feet is just tired and they decide they're going to sit down in front of a bank or in front of wherever they are, if it's raining and the only awning is that restaurant, but they're not necessarily a customer there, to now arrest them for loitering or trespassing, this is a crime against humanity. And what I've seen different criminals do, whether KKK or black supremacist criminals or other, like the sex slave gangs, the Blood and Crip gangs, they actually try to cause exhaustion potentially to their victim in many different ways, so that the victim will eventually be so exhausted they'll sit down just anywhere where their body just can't walk anymore, and right away, oh, tell that store owner, tell that worker, get them arrested, because if they can give the person a criminal record when they come out, who's going to hire them? Now, there are ministries that will try to help people, and who's going to rent to them? There are people that, I mean, they should, because the crime wasn't against the apartment complex they're trying to get housing from and rent from. However, in reality, it puts them through such trauma and it wastes their time. And then to try to get housing or something else on top of it, and then have a record or have to get a lawyer or even a free public defender and go through all that. And especially if a victim is homeless to begin with, to put all that extra on them, it's just causing the domino effect, unfortunately, making things worse instead of being a part of the solution. We need to enforce the laws, the rules, the regulations, the practices, the principles, not just in government, but in non-government entities, that will be the solution, the real solution, not become more a part of the problem that's hurting America. And right now, to have homeless as a result and a reaction, even people trying to make others homeless, the criminals trying to make others homeless, that's their reaction to a pandemic situation in 2020 that I saw, and in 2021, and this January of this year that we're in, 2022, this is people's reaction, whether government or not, to a huge pandemic crisis of COVID in this nation and worldwide. This is why I say to you, a lot of them are low IQ, and so low IQ they're dangerous, because if they were smart enough, they would realize that is making the pandemic only worse, to force people into homelessness where they're more exposed to virus. And even the elderly, I've seen this happen too. And this is a tragedy and crime against human rights. And to have them out and about where they could be exposed more to virus and catch it and then spread it more because they're out and about more. And so this is not the solution. We need to get people housing right away. I used to rent to Section 8 as a landlord. I bought houses. I put people in their own houses that they could go and live by themselves or with their family, and Section 8 paid the rent. And we have all that funding there. I remember in 2020, I said to Trump, and I said it to Biden when he became in office, I said, please do the $1 trillion or more funding for this pandemic so that people can stay home more, and so that there are so many more safeguards to keep us safe as a public. And both presidents did that. So it's not even a partisan Democrat-Republican issue. It's just a human issue. And they did it. What I saw, unfortunately, though, in areas that are racist, like in the Hot Springs National Park, that had become racist after there was such a victory for America in that becoming a national park. It used to be one of the Confederate headquarters, actually. So when it became a national park, instead of belonging to the Confederacy, it was hugely significant for a victory for the Union Army and President Lincoln. And he's one of my favorite presidents to this day. I remember being 7 years old in a school in Miami. Some of my teachers were Dwayne and Waite, I remember, and they also taught Casey and the Sunshine Band, Casey, the star to that. You might remember him, of course. And I actually ended up growing up and opening for him, solos for him in concerts. Our teachers then, that he had too, they actually taught me when I was little. I remember they opened a book and they said, this is President Lincoln in history. They said, we learn history so that we don't repeat our same mistakes as a nation nor as a world. And they said, these are soldiers, and they showed me a picture of soldiers fighting in black and white. I didn't even know the color of the Confederate Army soldiers versus the color of the uniform of the Union Army soldiers, because the book was printed in black and white to save money. So at that time, they didn't teach us that yet. I learned that later. And when they taught me that, they said President Lincoln saw a person with black skin being sold on a platform into slavery. And President Lincoln, he felt in his heart, that's not right to do to anyone. So President Lincoln became president, and he had the soldiers fight one another, and he won, so that no one has to be enslaved anymore. And then the librarian that read that book to me said to me, there's been no woman president yet. And she looked at me and said, what would you like to be when you grow up? So, of course, she had put those seeds in my heart. I want to be president of the United States. I want to be like President Lincoln. And what I saw in Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas, is that, unfortunately, there were people that were so angry with the racism there. And I do understand they're being angry, because there is a time that you just need to have righteous indignation and be angry for something that is such a crime against human rights. However, your response needs to be right and not make the problem worse. What was happening there is some of the people got so extreme that we can't even wear gray. I didn't know that. If I wore gray, people were threatening me and taking food away from me, spitting on my food, walk by me and literally spit on my food after threatening to. And gray was apparently the Confederate Army uniform color. But we can't go to that extreme where now we can't even wear a certain color. That's our American right to wear any color. It never meant to me pro-Confederate. I think you remember growing up in Florida, especially Miami and the Keys, we didn't have Confederate statues up. I never saw one. I never saw anything glorifying some soldier in a gray uniform. I saw definitely statues of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Lincoln. That's it. That's all I saw growing up. So we had so much good progress in Miami, and so many good people in Miami were a part of that. And I want to actually thank them if any of them get this message. And I do, although I do think Hollywood needs to go way more decent, back to some decency standards we used to have that were much better and less destabilizing for people psychologically, adults and children. Although I would like to see that pro-decency change occur, I would also like to thank Hollywood, because Hollywood hired people of different color, was one of the first to do that, even before I was born. And so that's really good. So a lot of our progress and positive issues that we have really advanced in different parts of America really do come from non-government, just free speech and Hollywood and media hiring different colors in media. And so people of color, both Caucasian and non-Caucasian, and from any national origin and any national origin ancestry. And so that's another thing that some of the ones that get too extreme the other way, that don't want someone to wear gray, they shouldn't do that. They should, like I said, address the issues the right way. And some of them have been angry with Hollywood. For example, one of the Academy Awards, the audience in around 2017, I believe, it had not as many non-Caucasians as sometimes the Academy Awards has had. And so some people got very irate at that. And while it may be time to say, hey, remember, let's go back to the good diversity as far as racial diversity that we had in Hollywood and that Hollywood has brought to us, where would we be without Hollywood today and the media with the free speech and with the racial equality that it has brought to us and helped the world advance? And I do want to also point out that when people get so mad at America that they want to commit terrorism against America, America is one of the best countries regarding racial equality. And though I do want to advance racial equality much more, so much that I do believe that Hot Springs National Park is such a clear and present danger. Most of the people there, not the congressmen, not some of the people at the top in government, and not the Carter family, Mr. and Mrs. Carter that own Uptown shop there. And Mr. Carter said he will be my running mate for USA president, by the way. If I win president, he'll be vice president. And he looks just like Jimmy, well, almost just like him. I mean, at a certain age. It's pretty adorable. And so there are good people, some good people there. But if we do not have leaders, and I mean no disrespect to any leaders, I'm in government, I don't want people disrespecting me, so I don't mean any disrespect to anyone when I say it's time to rise up and be tough enough of a leader to acknowledge what we call the elephant in the room, meaning what is so obviously such crimes against humanity based on race that should not be happening in this country, and do something about it, to say enough is enough, and to really use military force if necessary. Lincoln was tough enough to use military force. We need to be tough enough. Our leaders need to be tough enough to use military force, and sometimes that's the only way that people are going to learn. The person staring me in the face, that I was just walking across the street, he said the F word to me, which he had no reason to do. And that's illegal in public. It's against decency laws and should be. That's why people still need to have stickers on albums, explicit lyrics, so that parents know that's not for kids. They can't be just saying that just anywhere. It's sexual harassment, even if it's just adults that heard it, that if they're not consenting to hear that word. And so it's not allowed. And that is not against our free speech rights. That is part of our Constitution, what it meant. And we know that because our founding fathers of the Constitution, even Lincoln, never allowed that word to be said in public. So they allowed the decency laws to be enacted locally to enforce that protection of people's psychological well-being. And some kids, they're just not ready to hear that word. And so it should not be said around kids and even some adults, like I said. So the man cussed at me. I said to him, language, meaning you shouldn't have cussed just now. And, I want to be loving and all, but that attack, that severe, it looked to me like he just needed to be dealt with in a tone that would really communicate to him, I'm not joking, you're not allowed to say that word in public. And it is harassment illegally against me, and it can be prosecuted against. And so I did report it. He, after I just said language, that's it. He said, what? Like, how dare I tell him what the law is, and like as if he's above it. And he then showed me his forearm and told me he was going to noose me, and showed me the noose on the forearm, a huge tattoo of a definite noose. So people like that, what I've experienced is they're not going to stop unless there's drastic military action taken, and they know it's going to be taken. And that way they believe that if they do that, if they go around noosing people due to color of skin, if they know there really is going to be a consequence, even possibly the death penalty, and it will be enforced, and it will be enforced against them and all of their clan, their Ku Klux Klan, and all of their Confederate army that is totally against America, really, even if they have a government job, even if they're a government militant, it's not going to protect them. If they realize that, if they realize, you know what, there's not that big of a population and there's that many KKK running rampant, we need to just have the president say, yeah, he agrees with me, drop a bomb, tell our military to do it. You know what? We'd probably see a lot less KKK after that in America. I do believe that that is the solution. And that's not a mean solution. Not only did Lincoln do that, but it is actually within Catholic doctrine that it's good to sometimes do that, to be tough enough to stand up for what is right, to the point where someone is a tough enough leader to do that and to enforce it, to be tough enough to enforce it. And Joan of Arc, Saint Joan of Arc, is one of my favorite Roman Catholic saints, and she was a military woman. So it definitely is allowed within Catholic religion. So it is biblical, really. And that honestly is what needs to be done. If I told you more of the atrocities, I was telling you, it might need to be said that this is not for kids to hear. Where I was stabbed, it was after I did give a lady free food that had a wristband that she had just come out of the hospital. Her apartment had debris all over and piled up because she apparently couldn't take care of herself. So I went in to help her. During the COVID, I went and checked on people door to door sometimes, because you know what, Jesus would do that. So I wore a mask. I was very careful. And being a medical doctor, I know I was taught definite safeguards that even I wish the news would say more, like the major news on television, when they say, wash your hands a lot, sanitize your hands a lot, when they give you all these good ideas to do a lot. I wish they would say so much more that we were taught as medical doctors, because it really does help prevent the spread of disease. And you know what? Even of the common cold, and even of other virus. So it's very important. And so, for example, in medical school, we're taught not just to wash our hands, but to take a scrub brush, scrub under the fingernails. COVID can live there. After you washed your hands, if it didn't wash all the way under your fingernails and you dug your hands into something that had blood or feces or even food or anything that had COVID, it's not being too paranoid. I mean, this is a fact that medical doctors know. That's why we scrub underneath our fingernails before any surgery or before even doing anything in a hospital or a nursing home. So I know a lot more safeguards, so it's safer for me to go out and about when I'm telling everyone stay home, because I know if we have 8 billion, almost 8 billion or more people in the world, then not everyone is going to remember all those. And not everyone's going to have the scrub brush. They're not all going to be able to do it. So that's why I say, just stay home. I wish a lot of people would just stay home. And that brings me to also that over 30 years ago, I was given an assignment, and it was eventually to be told to the public. And my fellow top-level Central Intelligence Agency personnel, CIA of the USA, they did tell me, and this is way back in the late 80s, when my mother was working for Burger King CEOs and had been for 20 years before she worked for the fire department of one of the Miami fire departments. And the Burger King CEOs, they also have access because of their money and fame to some of the best doctors, and they can find out if there's virus. Like then the AIDS started escalating at such a high rate, people didn't know what to do. And so even with all of their access and money to the best of the best of the best medically, people at that very their best friends, our best friends, were getting AIDS virus. And so back then, the CIA said it's such a problem that even people so high up, or even in non-government and government, are getting the AIDS virus, that they taught me, what do we need to do in a crisis situation, globally, nationwide, statewide, locally, citywide, and very basics that I learned and that were instilled into me so much that, unfortunately, after I talked to you in the podcast we had, very soon after that, I went to Arkansas. So I was not with the Clintons in person. Even though I was with their pastor, there's not really anything the pastor could do. Like sometimes he could call Billy and get a message to him, but it's not the same at all as me being there in person. With them, being able to have the hours every day that I had with them for over a year in person, to be able to go over different issues before 2020 that I was able to do. So when 2020, the pandemic hit, I was not able to, and Congressman Bruce Westerman, he wasn't in his office a lot. His Secret Service sometimes were there, so I would help them out when I could. But it wasn't the same as being right with the congressman in person, who could get the word to DC for me. And I'm supposed to be given a support team right when I go anywhere that's going to protect me and provide for me. Very similar to some movies you see on about CIA, where, I mean, and this is stuff everyone knows is definitely not breaching. And to immediately have boom, 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 everything I need, even stuff maybe that I didn't even have time to think of because I was dealing with something else, or trying to improve America in a different issue. And so to have the funding readily accessible to me immediately and more, and my communications reliable and secure without people saying, oh, but you're breaching now if you're going to, like if it's a method that's going to help with stop COVID spread more. People were literally threatening me, I'm breaching if I tell someone, but they wouldn't give me a secure way to really tell them. And if there was a secure area, they wouldn't even provide me transportation, or the transportation they would provide me, literally, this is one of many tactics. The car breaks down, or the guy that's driving pretends like he's asleep against the wheel, and he's faking it. He's just trying to say, oh, if I get you in a car accident, you're going to, I'm blaming it on, oh, I fell asleep. He can still go to jail for that. People tried to hit me with their cars many times, walking across the street in a crosswalk. They're not allowed to hit pedestrians, even if the pedestrian's not walking in a crosswalk. CIA, I'm allowed to flash a badge and walk anywhere across the street, not even have to be at the crosswalk. They try to hit me anyways. A lot of the pro-Confederates, they don't like any federal government, so they hate CIA. It's not just about color even. They hate FBI, they hate Secret Service. So if I said, listen, the Secret Service is even going to back me up and agrees with me that you need to give me reliable transportation as my support team, or you need to be changed out, they say, we can't always get what you want. That's not even a logical response. It's they need to stick to the textbook, which is, the training book, the handbook on how to be my support team. And if they're not, there's a big problem. And if they really were taught that that's not even what the handbook says, we have an even bigger problem than that. So here, once again, good old-fashioned USA constitutional freedom of the press is saving me by this interview that I've finally been able to have with you again after all of this time. And so that brings me to the fact that one of the solutions, Dan, is not just military force, which is constitutional, and save you, like, like you've been very good, definitely. So don't take any military force against Dan, anybody, definitely. So, but one of the other solutions is to mic everyone, give everyone the mic, give everyone the chance to be interviewed by press like yourself and major media. And social media needs to not really be taken away from anyone, not even as a punishment. There do need to be safeguards for children on social media, and much more than I've seen, definitely. However, if someone's being beaten and they can just put it on Facebook, even a wife or any victim, a lot of times the research has shown, and I have seen time and time again, even with surveillance, definitely a lot of criminals, they'll think twice when, oh, she's going to put it on Facebook, and they will get real good all of a sudden and not commit the crime of spousal abuse or child abuse or other crimes. Some are so low IQ, they just don't care. And some are just so criminal, they don't care, and they'll still commit the crime. However, a huge percentage of crime will be reduced just by that simple giving access to social media to everyone. And when I was in Los Angeles, California, one of the times, I noticed that when I had witnessed kidnappings, like I told you at one of, and if people had had access right away to social media, then that could have helped a lot. And I would film everywhere, everything, because just in case there were so many kidnappings that by the time a kidnapping happens, then who filmed it, So film everything, because then by the time it happens, I have a bunch of evidence of who was where and on what street corner and what part of the playground, and that might have been in on it, or that might have seen something to help rescue the victim that was kidnapped. So it's good for social media and that right for everyone to take pictures and film everywhere. I'm not saying everyone should be able to film something that's national security, for example, on a military base that, or a part of a military building like an armory that maybe there is something top secret that the nation should not see and should not know about, that does need to be protected as national security secrets. I'm not saying people should be able to film there. All this, just go in, anyone can film and put it on their social media. So, I mean, there are parameters, and that brings me to another problem that we can have a solution just by addressing it here, possibly, is there are parameters to everything usually, and there are exceptions to everything usually. So one of the problems I've seen is when I have posted something, whether someone is well-meaning or not, if I posted, well, this should be happening, I've seen people get too extreme to where either, like if I let the public know, and it is true, and I wish the media would say it more, the huge major national networks that are seen globally also, I wish they would say that it is a fact, because a lot of jobs are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, that more people are off work in America and globally during evenings and weekends. And because of that, there's more population out and about. So it is actually a higher risk to catch a virus or even get in a car accident. I mean, even if the virus was cured overnight. So this is just good kind of safety, public service announcement type of information that really should be constantly reminded to the public. So that way people can make a decision, you know what? It's Saturday, it's the busiest day that people are out and about, and the busiest night that people go out if there's no shutdown, and and in areas where they're allowed out at night or allowed out on the weekend. So you know what? It's Saturday or Saturday night. I'm gonna just decide to stay home. That would actually reduce their risk of catching virus, and even of car crashes, being a victim of that. it is safer. And when we do have such a huge population in America and the world, and loving people like Jesus Christ loves them with the heart of Father God, with the heart of the Trinity, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and the heart of Mother Mary, I believe that we should want to tell people, even if they don't have to stay home in some locations, like maybe where you are, there's not as big of a population. So people don't have to stay home every night and every day over there, but they might decide, you know what, maybe I'll go to the Friday night thing that Dan's having over here instead of a Saturday night, or maybe they'll decide not to go to church, watch it online, or they'll decide to, if they go to church, maybe don't go out to dinner like they normally would afterwards, like to lunch on a Sunday. I mean, after Sunday morning church, which a lot of people I used to love doing. And and then there's the other extreme that I was telling you about, though, of people that they get mad at me then if I post pictures that I'm out and about on a Saturday after I just told people to stay home. They say, what, you don't take your own medicine? You're not taking your own advice? What is this? You're a fraud? No, like I said, Dan, I know other safeguards. So I told, like, sometimes I will even wear gloves, like medical gloves and stuff. I do all kinds of different safeguards people don't know about. So when I'm out and about, it's totally different. It really is. And I would love actually to teach everyone many more safeguards because they were actually supposed to know this. A lot of people in the CIA that taught me 30 years ago, logically, if they were 50, then they're 80 years old now. And some of them have passed away, unfortunately, which is very sad for me because they were some of the best ever yet people that I ever worked with, and the best minds. The word intelligence in Central Intelligence Agency means just that, intelligence. That means they're smart. And so it doesn't mean that we haven't discovered, it doesn't mean we've discovered all that there is and there's no one else that's smart in the world. There's a lot of people that are smart in the world. In fact, it was taught to me that some people who are very, very smart, it might not show up on an IQ test right away. And especially in areas that are racist, where racists have tried to dumb down people that are non-Caucasian, unfortunately, which is illegal. They have tried to also give them duress emotionally by sex harassment, even little kids, and by the stabbing and all kinds of psychological warfare tactics. They're totally illegal. Trying to divide and conquer, and even telling people their mother doesn't want them, their mother doesn't care about them, don't even think about going home to their mother because their mother's so mad at them, when it's not even true. So they become homeless literally because they believe a deception that they can't go home. The tactics, I told you, I could spend an hour on each. It's really more than that on each of those tactics. It's that much of a clear and present danger to the nation. What I saw by most of the people in National Park, Arkansas, either by what they did or failed to do. When I was stabbed, it was in the female area below, right? Unfortunately. And I'm very resilient, so I'm able to talk about it without it causing me duress. However, when that was done to me, just because I helped a lady who has black skin, who needed the help, I took her free food. And the man that was possibly behind some of it literally threatened me that if I helped her, that was it. And he threatened my female organ. And I didn't really think that could happen to me. I thought surely someone, even in the support team assigned to me to protect me and provide for me, someone is going to stand up and protect me and defend me, because I would. That's just what a human being should do and would do, right? And they didn't, and why? And I thought of it after I was stabbed, and I was tried. The man that did that, a Caucasian man, tried to control me, and he was actually. I realized some people that were non-Caucasian around him that he was controlling. It's not that maybe they're not good people. It's really that they're afraid of being stabbed in their organs themselves, or maybe they already were and they just don't want to go through that again. But you know what? I refused to bow down to him after. I refused to obey him. He wanted me to stop giving free food. The moment I was healed, I started giving free food to people again. And I don't care, because I'm not going to bow down to terror, and that is terror. It's domestic terror, and it has no place in this country and in this world and in our universes. It's not acceptable. It's not lawful. Our Constitution says inalienable rights. That means rights not just to us American citizens. That means to the alien, meaning to everyone who exists. Every individual, every human being has rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that means to live in a world without terror. And that's why we need to be tough enough to really take military force at this time, military action, because it is the only way the people that are good, there's casualties of war, unfortunately. So I say save all the good people, you and the congressman and some of his Secret Service, the Carters, and there's some at the Catholic Church that were great and helped me sneak out of there, out of Arkansas. But another solution that I wanted to bring up is I do believe, and because when I also noticed when I called upon certain top celebrities that I'm friends with or had a relationship with, they then sometimes the low IQ that's the domestic terrorist, they would get scared, like, oh, she knows Justin Bieber, uh-oh. And then all of a sudden Justin Bieber's friends, some of them start showing up in person to visit me, and they backed off for a while. I got a few more months out of that place without getting stabbed again. So before I could leave, and it wasn't just him, it was a lot of people. And I've told people, my celebrity friends will help me no matter where I am. And even if they're not government, and they're not usually, of course, there's like only very few, like we said, Shirley Temple and Julia Childs were in TV cinema and ended up joining the CIA, publicly known. But usually celebrities is totally not government. So I know it's very odd that I am in both, but I'm one of those exceptions. So, but I knew that even though my fellow celebrities today that exist are not government along with me, their influence by their fame level, it really makes a difference. There are certain things that the lower IQ are impressed by, which can be an advantage to us in a good way. So that if a celebrity says, hey, I'm not putting up with this, and we all come together and say, we're standing up for each other and we're not going to take this anymore. There's that non-government influential group of people that can do that. Also top level CEOs of corporations that have a lot of money. I did notice that the low IQ is also usually very impressed with physical strength. So I've said before, people post pictures of yourself working out on social media if you can, even if it's at home, because that does deter for a certain amount of time. It might not forever, but one day is better than no days. That is an extra day someone has to live before they can escape. So the thing is, Daniel, if this has been happening to my fellow top-level CIA in specific locations, imagine what we see with surveillance of non-government people that have no defense like we should have. And so it's been a problem for much longer of a time period. It was a long-term plan to seek out and root out where the problem areas still are, and give them an amount of time to change. But if they don't, and they attack instead and stab me in the you-know-what instead, their time's up. So,
Ishah Laurah Wright, I love your passion and I love your fearlessness in trying to get your message out there. Now, how can people find you and learn more about you? And I know you've alluded to it a little bit. How are you steering your message? Because I know you're all right. When I first met you, it was the music, it was the supermodeling, it was the celebrity, and then later I find out that you're in the CIA. and then you know a lot of celebrities, and you also have this passion for helping people and feeding people, taking care of the people that are less fortunate, and these are all wonderful things that I know about you and I admire about you. But how are you steering this into a bigger scale? You said something about running for office.
Yes,
Where are you
Sam.
going from here, and how can people find out more about that?
I am so glad that you asked me because, yes, I am running for president of the United States. It was actually said to me in person by many of the people that I was around at the time we had the podcast together last, which is in 2019. I was around a lot of top secret service that have, and the world knows it's just common sense, really, that of course even non-government, they cherry pick the top to be around the top. So the CEOs of Burger King picked my mom because she's one of the most amazing women in the world. Well, of course I think so, but she really is. Her IQ is very, very high. Well, it's DNA, so it runs in the family. But that is why the non-government entity Burger King chose her to be the secretary of more than one CEO. And they took me under their wing growing up. And they taught me, like you said, what gave me the heart to feed people, besides Jesus and the Bible, which they actually taught me as well, and the Catholic Church, and from Mother Teresa's teachings. They taught me that Burger King is feeding the world. Burger King going globally, they on purpose will put things on the menu that are a little less expensive than the others so that people can always eat. And on purpose, they said it's supposed to be unchangeable policy that people can always get a free cup of ice water so they won't dehydrate to death, or which would cause health problems if they don't die but still suffer dehydration. And they will always give even free unlimited packets of relish and ketchup that some people have had to use to make tomato soup if they had a situation where the food stamps didn't come in, or EBT or SNAP as sometimes it's called, or other. Um, Burger King's always been there for them to provide for them. They've instructed their employees to go ahead and have the manager be able to make a decision, even to give free meals to people. And if they recognize someone really needs a meal, they can do that, and it's not considered stealing. And also, they told me that the national government has enacted legislation that's unchangeable, that's constitutional, that certain major entities that are non-government corporations do actually need to provide a specific level of affordable and free items, supplies, food, drink, toiletries, personal hygiene items, and more, as well as the churches and medicine even, by the medical corporations. They can't ever withhold a vaccine. I've actually thankfully was able to get that message through when I asked both presidents, to both Trump and Biden, when Biden stepped into office, when I asked them, and by reminding them, remember, the law is the corporations have to do that. So we have to have a certain amount of vaccines for everyone, and for free even. And so Walgreens started giving for free and things like that. Oh, this brings me back to the other subject, because it's this important. So I don't mean to go on a rabbit trail here, but it is intentional. So it's an okay rabbit trail. There is definitely evidence people were intentionally trying to delay others from getting the free vaccines in Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas. Those type of criminals I told you about already. So whether it's KKK or even the other extreme black supremacists that want to kill Caucasians, which that shouldn't be either, or if it was gang related, or just low IQ thinking, oh, we're just going to teach people to jump through hoops to have more perseverance because that's a good character quality. Common sense should tell them that making someone jump through a hoop to get a COVID inoculation that's going to save their lives and save them from getting it and spreading it to others, so it potentially could save the lives of thousands, that's not a time to teach perseverance. In populations of billions of people in this world, we don't have the luxury anymore of teaching people perseverance by making them jump through hoops. It's not allowed. It's an illegal delay, whether it's intentional, domestic terrorist intent, or malicious intent of one reason or another or not. It is illegal, and it can really escalate a virus situation that is already out of control. Even today, there is been 2,000 new cases per day. Even in one state alone is the update that I just got right before talking to you. That's a lot of people. That's it's so criminal. And then to deny altogether, to delay till the person doesn't even end up getting the vaccine or any of the vaccines. It's severely criminal. This is a type of severe criminality happening in Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas, that I witnessed. And they'll also try to pretend like someone is mentally ill and even say, oh, well, they're getting dementia when the person is totally not. And all kinds of different tactics. That's the character assassination part of the Geocentric Model that I showed you in the other broadcast, of different ways that criminals try to attack potential victims. So it's good to educate the public about this, because knowing is half the battle, usually with anything. So as far as me running for president, back to that, after I got to cover that very important fact with you and to the public here. And thank you for letting me, Daniel. I did want to say that the top level Secret Service, because the corporations will cherry pick the best, but also government does, especially for top level officials. I mean, that's common sense. Everyone knows that. It's in textbooks, in government textbooks that are available to the public. Definitely people know if someone's a president of the United States, gee, who should we get to protect him? You know, the less capable person or the most capable, the highest entity of our nation, or some of the top CIA, my fellow top CIA and I, who should protect us and him? What should be the priority? American safety is the priority. Safety of Americans is the priority. Also, the top levels of government has to be the priority, because that's the one that is responsible for the rest of the Americans. So that's just a very logical, sensible fact that cannot ever change. So when I did go before top level Secret Service then and FBI, not saying their names here, and fellow top level CIA and more, that were around USA presidents and some of the very, very top famous that need some of the top level government, like when I helped protect Senator Tim Kaine, that was Hillary Clinton's running mate for president for 2016. That made him one of the top famous, like a celebrity, really famous senator in the United States. And ever since then, he's one of the top famous people in the world. And so when I worked with his people, and I worked with the people assigned to him immediately around him, and then just 100 feet away from one of his local offices, and 200, 250 feet, very immediate. They all said to me in person, they want me to be president. They definitely believe I should. Their level of authority would be something that, whether someone's government or not, people should respect, and I believe they should. It's not about me. I believe they should say, you know what? That's verifiable. The White House can find out who were they and did they really say that? You know, without giving their names, the Secret Service names and FBI names and fellow CIA names. They don't have to know anything that would breach national security, but it's easy to say, hey, call the White House and say, hey, whoever was that security detail around the Roanoke, Virginia office for Senator Tim Kaine, who were they? And around Congressman Ben Cline and Senator Warner, they were all right around each other. And all those top ones, and around the cousins of Billy Clinton, and one of our presidents, who were they? And ask them, did they say they want me to be president? They really mean it. I'm really qualified. They feel I'm the best for the job, and they have many reasons, both that they could share, but some that are not able to be shared safely for the nation because they don't want to divulge national security, which is good. I think people should trust that. I think they should check it out, verify it, and trust it, because if those are the best that we have, and we know they were because they were placed around those top people, and some of them at the time, Biden was actually not president yet, and he frequented that area. So we actually worked with those that were his Secret Service at the time, because he was then former vice president of the United States of America. So he had high level Secret Service as well. And they were among those that agreed at the time that I would be a great president. And some fellow celebrities say I would be a beautiful president. I really appreciate that. I'm not trying to be arrogant at all. I'm just saying what they said. I'm really saying that not just for me, but for all women, because you know what I find is also when a woman is in office and high office, whether you agree with her or not, Harris is our vice president now, and it has helped women. A lot of men will stop beating their wives more when they realize, oh, women can be authority figures. Oh, maybe I should respect women. Yeah, gee, you think? Definitely. I mean, you respect women, Dan, and you're a great example of that, and I'm thankful for that. And the more that we do have women leaders, like Hillary Clinton has been not just First Lady of the USA, but also one of our secretaries of state, and whether people agreed with her policies or not, it did help at the time that she was in office, in those high offices, and she was a USA senator, and she's an attorney, and that really helps women. So when I say that, I'm really not saying that for me as far as to brag about, oh, I would be a beautiful president. It really is to say, you know, any woman would be a beautiful president because women are beautiful. So.
We've had
and everyone is beautiful.
Yeah, we've had female leaders all over the world, and I think they've done a decent job. It's as good a job as anybody, you know? It's a tough job. It's a hard job. Are you sure you want this? My goodness, it's a hard job. You know, you see that 4-year, 8-year aging. They show you, you know, when they first became president, they're so virile and young, and their beard and hair is all brown, and by the time they finish, they're wrinkled up, shriveled up, gray hair. Oh my goodness, you could see it on their face. They've had a tough time. All right, Ishah Laurah Wright. I don't want this.
It. I'm qualified, and my heart wants to take care of the world. The CIA actually had a mission that is supposed to be publicly known, like I said, by this time I was supposed to disclose it, to actually take care of America and the world more, and to feed everyone, clothe everyone much more. And there are ways affordably to do it. And it's amazing. If I went into all of that, and that's a whole longer broadcast, another one that we could go into. And but I feel like because of that, I'm actually really trying to take care of America and the world anyways. And I feel a responsibility morally, because I did test out, as someone literally said to me, one of the experts that does testing for IQs said, I've never seen anyone score this high before on this test. Wow. And when my daughter had an IQ test, the expert that tested her said it's off the charts. It's immeasurably high. So this is my family DNA. I do feel that because of this, I have a moral obligation to God and to country and to humanity to use whatever time I have left on this earth to maximize the good that I can do for the world, for humanity, for the USA. And so I'm doing it anyways. I'm trying to do it anyways, find the solutions, find the improvements, make everyone's life better as possible, medically, with national security, in all different fields. And so I actually want the presidency even more than ever, because it will give me more influence, because I've noticed the top famous people, like I said, whether it's government or even non-government, they get more attention. It's just a fact. Media, a lot of times, will give them more attention. So the public, you know, will pay attention more also. And people are impressed by it. The lower IQ, it's easier to stop them from committing crimes even, because they're impressed. And if they think, oh, you know, this celebrity they love, or oh, someone, the United States president is saying this. Okay, yeah, I better stop noosing people. You know, they should know not to anyways. But that's just one of many examples. There's so many things that I could have helped with the COVID crisis that my heart was broken watching the news and the numbers escalating day after day for the past couple of years or so since 2020, since the month of 2020 when the skyrocket unfortunately occurred. And there's still, Dan, so many more solutions I can give, so many simple things I can tell people. When people, for example, say, oh, masks are stupid, I just say this. Why do us medical doctors, wear a mask during surgery? Why, if they really don't work? Definitely they therefore work. It's been researched and proven, or we wouldn't have been doing it for years and years and years and years. Doctors have been doing that before I was born. So it's not even about me when I say this. And so many lives could have been saved just by that. It's not a catch-all. Some things can still get through a mask, but it's better than nothing. When I say that, the criminals that I've seen in surveillance have utilized that to say, try to steal someone's mask, then they can't get in anywhere to get anything, any food, any service, or anything if they do need to actually go somewhere to get something. And with the shutdown, some places still do need to be open because there's always an emergency where people can't get their medicine on time and they do have to go to a pharmacy in person or have someone go for them. So there's going to be always people that need food, even criminals that attack and steal the food from someone, break in, steal all their food to try to control them more, the potential victim. So there always has to be grocery stores open, restaurants, Walmarts, even in shutdowns. And they need to give free masks everywhere if they're going to. I do believe masks should be required. There are medical exceptions. Like I said, there's usually an exception to everything. Sometimes there are people with that suddenly will get like a heat stroke. And if they have a mask on, it's even harder for them to breathe. And they can die from the mask. So in that situation, so it just depends on the situation. Most people don't have that problem. So, I mean, we should say, yes, masks, but give them the normal, good medical exceptions that all medical doctors, it's medical textbook, no, exist. And also make masks available for free. People, if they can wear their own mask, and the medical masks proven to work best, we know, because that's why medical doctors wear medical masks. That's why we do that. So definitely that's best. And definitely one that is closer to the face to leave less gaps is best. It doesn't have to have a wire or not. If it fits right, it's not necessarily the wire making it fit right. Now the wire can help, but there can be masks, and there are, that do fit well without wires. And really, something's better than nothing, honestly. So, I mean, the cloth masks are better than nothing in most cases, like except for those few exceptions that are exempt from wearing masks. So that's really the answer to that. And I've been trying to get that message through, and my support team, which was with friends like that and a support team like that, who needs enemies? Meaning they're really the enemy, whether they realize it or not, because to block that information from the public, who would do that? Why? Except for an enemy. What harm would it be to tell the public, yes, masks are good. That's why medical doctors, we have been wearing them for years and years, even the ones before I was born and before Dan was born. So everyone really knows this. If we would not panic and think about the facts that we all know, that everyone has witnessed, if they've ever been around any hospitals or anything. Just
Ishah Laurah Wright, you're a fascinating person. My goodness, we got to wind this thing down. Where's the website that people find you? Social media? How do people get in contact with you if they want to support you in any of your endeavors and find out even more about you? And I don't want this to be the last time that we talk. We'll talk again as time progresses. But tell people any social media or websites that they could find you on.
I am on different social media and things. One of the attacks that I've received is, unfortunately, attack, like I said, with that geocentric model against communications that people do. So some people have attacked when I have said, oh, this is my website or this is my email. All of a sudden, huge attacks to the email. And with my job, what I'm now going to do is just have people contact Keith and Karina Clinton, one of their restaurants. The address is 10 Campbell Avenue, Southeast, and that's in Roanoke, Virginia. And the restaurant is called R.T. Smith's. They are online now. As Keith says, sometimes they appear and disappear. Sometimes they go stealth. His words to the public already, so definitely not breaching anything. But that is actually the best way. In the Federal Election Commission, fec.gov website, I am filed as running for president, and it is illegal, really, that when I used to run for Senate and Congress, I had no problem with being on major media and having my name more readily seen and more immediately on the Federal Election Commission website, instead of having to really go through search engines and really search for it, that I'm registered to run. They used to have it immediately, who's running for office in America, on the main page of the website. Right when people would log on, you could see, you click on the state I was running in and you'd see my name, running for Senate in Virginia, USA Senate, things like that, years ago. But when I moved to Virginia after that, and I posted that on social media, never yet again have I been able to be found when I've filed for running. I haven't been able to be found on the website's main page that the other candidates are easily seen, more readily available to the public to be seen when the public goes to touch or click or voice command on the website. So this is the type of problem I'm telling you, that it's not just been in Arkansas, it's also been in Central Virginia, when I've been in Central Virginia. Now, if I'm with the Clintons, Keith and Karina, or one of the top, I let them know and it's fixed right away. I'm not immediately with them right now. So right now, I'm going to go by what Keith Clinton said. He said, someone as famous as his family, that his first cousin has been in the White House. It is not breaching. It is not hurting national security for people to know about that restaurant address. And people that try to say I'm being negligent with too many details, as if that's breaching national security, so then they can now starve me, torture me, kill me. This is the type of tactics, like KKK tactics and other type of criminals, that should not be happening. Even the black supremacists that are part of, not all black supremacists are domestic terrorists, but the ones that are, and the foreign hostiles, not all foreigners are hostile. This is the type of tactics they've been utilizing. So from now on, just send my mail to Keith Clinton, to me, care of Keith and Karina Clinton, R.T. Smith Deli. And you can even look up their contact information on the website, and they said that's fine to do. They actually, when I filed in the Federal Election Commission, I put their address as being, when they ask where I'm banking, some of the assets are not always money, so it's not always a bank. It might be a safety deposit box in a bank, but the Federal Election Commission actually agreed to letting me just store even some of my assets with Keith and Karina Clinton. And I put on the paper, and that's Billy's cousin, one of our presidents. So in other words, they need to do this. So they realized, okay, that obviously the Secret Service of theirs approved, so we need to do that. That's not changeable. Anyone under that would have lower rank in general. When I say in general, I mean like 90.9% probably. Have lower rank and cannot overturn that.
If nothing else, Ishah Laurah Wright, I hope they get some more business at the deli.
Oh, I definitely do. They deserve it. They're amazing, really. And they've done such a wonderful thing for civil rights. And I honestly believe that they really are like living Catholic saints. Someone prayed over me, a priest in Hollywood, California, the closest Roman Catholic church to the house that Marilyn Monroe is famous for having on TV, like in documentaries and stuff like that. I've sang at that property too, at her house. the priest prayed and gave a blessing over me that I will become a Catholic saint as well, a Roman Catholic saint. The type that they beatify today, which we're not supposed to have to go through suffering, not required to have poverty, not required to be martyred, and the type that we can actually get married. I actually believe, to tell you the truth, when I look at humanity and all the surveillance I've seen over all of the world, all of the atrocities by a lot of the lower IQ, a lot of the saintly qualities of wanting to care for people, feed people, give them the free energy worldwide. A lot of my fellow top level CIA, the top IQs, I really believe are like Keith and Karina Clinton are very, very top level intelligence, and they're very giving. They're very charitable. I really believe that they are like Catholic saints, probably really are. And all of my fellow top level USA CIA, and even if they don't know it, and even if they're not Catholic, because St. Patrick was not even Catholic, but the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, sainted him afterwards, after he died. And they recognized, you know what? This man was a saint, and he sure was. And one of my favorite saints is St. Jude, the saint of hopeless causes. And I pray to him because sometimes when you see billions of people in the world and all of the horrors that people do to one another, and a lot of times it is because some of them are just lower IQ, that it seems like a hopeless cause when people actually have surveillance and see all of that. The average person doesn't. But if you do, it seems like a hopeless cause. Like, why even try sometimes to make a difference? But you know what? If you can just make a difference in just one person, and then the next, and then the next, and pretty soon it's that domino effect, but in a positive way, like the trickle-down effect. It helps change the world eventually over time. And we have had a lot of progress in the world in different areas and in different issues. So it's not impossible, though it doesn't like it. My fellow top level CIA, some of which have passed on, and I'm 53, going to be 54 next month. So it's my turn to take that baton and use the time I have for the assignments they gave me that they said the public is to know now. They did want eventually. We were recruiting, and before I was born, geneticists were actually choosing some of our births. We were recruiting from all countries, trying to look at those who were talented. I'm not saying Baryshnikov's in the CIA, but that movie Turning Point that he was in, it talks about recruiting talent from other countries, and even other countries that were unwilling to give up their talent. But what happened in actuality, and it is a fact over time, the USA hired the best and the brightest from everywhere over so many years, even before I was born, that we do have the best and the brightest there is. If anyone's going to solve it, we are. We're not perfect. Sometimes when the perfection doesn't happen at all or right away, it's really not our fault. It's because someone else is blocking either our communications from getting to someone that will enforce what's to be done or other. But a lot of times it really is not our fault. We really love everyone. I've heard people say, oh, they couldn't care. They don't care about us, people in government. The ones that I know in person at the top level and that I've known for years, and the ones that train me, we love everyone so much more anyone could ever imagine. I really believe that. And we really do want the best for everyone. And if anyone was qualified to provide that, it is us. And eventually the mission was to let the public know we do want to provide that. So we do want to say, to the other countries, surrender to us, put up our flags. It's not a takeover maybe like everyone would think, or a surrender like everyone would think, in the way that might have sounded coming out of my mouth just then. But put up the Vatican flag too, because we do have the ones that taught me actually did believe, do believe, even if they're passed on, because they're still in heaven and they're watching us. So they still exist. So they still do believe in Roman Catholicism. A lot of the ones who trained me did also. And they did say to me, they wanted the world to know they do feel it is best. For example, if we tell the Pope to please tell the world, you're a major world religion, please tell the world don't bomb America, a lot of the world won't, just because they listen to the Pope. And that's a good thing. And he's a wonderful person. All of our popes have been, really. And I feel very blessed that I was in a movie with Kim Rossi Stewart, who he's like the Elvis Presley or the Justin Bieber, the most famous person of Italian celebrities in Italy. So because I'm a co-star of his in a movie, even though I don't believe in everything every movie stands for that I've ever been in, and so some of it is just jokes, or it's just it's make believe, it's pretend we're acting. However, I feel very thankful that I was in that movie with Kim, because the popes are all in the Vatican. Each pope that has existed has been in the Vatican. So they're surrounded by Italy, and me being a co-star of one of Italy's most famous stars, and most respected and beloved stars, it makes me one of theirs also. So all the popes know who I am, and like even Pope John Paul II and others that have already gone on to heaven, they knew who I was since that movie, the ones that have been alive and in the papacy since that movie. So I feel very blessed. It's like, wow, the Pope knows me, knows my name. It's like so awesome. Of course, he is the vicar of Christ, I believe personally. And so the Christ in him knows all of our names and loves all of us and cares about all of us more than we can imagine. And the Pope also has said no slavery. So when people have tried to argue, like I've heard KKK in even in Roanoke, Virginia, there's a lot there. Not all of them are, but the ones in Roanoke, Virginia, I heard them say, oh, well, Abraham Lincoln said, he didn't say no slavery. He just said, don't do it that way. Do slavery by putting them all in jail, all the non-Caucasians. It's like, oh no, that is not what Abraham Lincoln said at all, and that is not what he meant at all, and that's not constitutional at all, and it's not biblical. They take a scripture out of context that says slaves obey your masters, totally out of context. It's talking about being a good employee, first of all. If someone's an employee, try to be a good employee. If someone's an employee, that's the type of servitude it talked about. It never said only non-Caucasians or all non-Caucasians to enslave them. The Bible never says that. And when St. Paul said that slaves obey your masters, he said, remember my chains, meaning remember I'm enslaved right now talking, so maybe I'm really not saying something unless I'm being forced to say it. So that's where we talked about before, Daniel, and the other podcasts that we had before this one, the most recent one. We said that before this broadcast, we said that the Bible does say it is the Word of God, the inspired Word of God, and it is, I believe, and the Roman Catholic Church believes. However, it needs to be interpreted the right way, and the right way is definitely not pro-slavery, and the Bible itself even says it needs to be, it says rightly divide, learn to rightly divide, quote unquote, rightly divide the word of truth. Divide means take some of it out. What does that mean? St. Paul himself said sometimes it was him talking, just of his own opinion, not what God wanted. And he said sometimes he was saying God's thoughts. So not all of it is God's thoughts, though it's all inspired by, it's the inspired word of God. It doesn't mean that literally take every word literally and then take that scripture and say, oh, enslave people. Never. No sex slavery is allowed ever. Nothing even close to that. And no slavery at all. And so if people have, like I said, the heart of a parent, the Father God is all of our parent, and Mother Mary, if they had the heart of those parents, which are the heart to have, then they would never want to see slavery. You don't want to see your kids enslaved. Jesus even said, even evil people will give good gifts to their children if their children ask. And
Ishah Laurah Wright, I think that's the perfect place to end on Jesus's words.
amen.
All right. Well, if you want, give like a final thought for the people, last words for the people. Ishah Laurah Wright, I don't want this to be the last time that we talk. Give the last words for the people.
Thank you. It was originally our plan, and I was told to carry it through as best as possible. So I'm trying, and this is part of it. This is part of me trying. We eventually did want to give, it's not just a takeover, but it was a take care of the world, take care of the people in every country, because we've had for over 30 years the technology to give free energy to every home, to give a free home to everyone. It's affordable. It's actually doable. To give free food. The way I was explained, one of the ways, and then like you said, we'll end here. Johnny Appleseed was one of the first people I was taught about when I was a little girl. And Johnny Appleseed went across America, and when he would eat an apple, instead of throwing the seeds away, he would plant them for everyone from then on, forever, to be able to have apples free. And if you think about it that way, we could give everyone free apples if we were all like Johnny Appleseed. And we have more technology than he ever dreamed of having at that time, than he could have ever imagined existed. So we're actually able to. I was taught, without going into national security secrets, something the public can know is I was brought into a facility where there was food being grown by the USA, hydroponically, not the hydroponic gardens that a lot of people see as hydroponic. These were hanging from tubes with the roots hanging out of the tubes, and the roots would be sprayed by a machine every 30 minutes with water and nutrition, a specific mixture that also prevented insects. And people did not even ever have to even enter the room. So the plants won't even get COVID from anyone. I mean, it couldn't even be contaminated at all because there's no contact. There's no humans there at all. It's the machines spraying the roots, the machines like an assembly line of robotically that can plant the seed in the tube, and then the fruit would grow and hang out of the tube and its roots. And the fruit and the vegetables were bigger than any vegetables I'd ever seen in my life. And actually, Epcot, you might remember in Florida, had it on display for a while. I don't know if they still might. They had a version of it that is, it shows how we don't even need then to pay workers. Once we get the ball rolling, those seeds, God made it so that apple has all those seeds that will keep making more apples, and trees that will make more apples and more apples, unlimited. All it needs, all those plants need is protection and nourishment and hydration. And so, we really could feed the world so easily and without much labor and without much money. It's really true. And the water, if we got it from the ocean, it's almost limitless, the amount of water. If we just need to purify the ocean water, but it's so easy to do. And there is more ocean water in existence than land on the earth. So it's so doable. If you look at it that way, it's so easy. It would be so easy. And we want to provide for everyone. And a lot of countries' leaders, not all of them, but actually very few of them have been adverse to this when I have gotten to talk to them in person. I was trained in person by different White House staffers that were actually in the White House, different administrations, even USA presidents in person, different ones. I in person was in the room with George W. Bush, and so not just Billy Clinton and his wife. And I've worked with people that have worked with Reagan right there, his staff and his photographers in person, and a lot. And they definitely said I could say. So it's definitely not even close to breaching. Usually, it's not if it's, like I said, an elected official, because everyone's allowed to know the name of an elected official. I'm not even giving you the names of the staffers necessarily. So like in this broadcast, I definitely haven't. So, and
Thank you.
they said I could actually. The staff,
Thank
the ones
you.
on staff, it's not any undercover person.
Thank you, Ishah Laurah Wright. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. This is awesome. Thank you.
God bless you.
Oh my goodness. There you have it, party people. Ishah Laurah Wright. What a fascinating person. That girl's been through so much. That lady's been through so much. And she's using her IQ and her various skills to help people. That's pretty much what it's all about, helping people. So as soon as you take care of yourself, try to help some other people. Yeah. And good luck running for president, Ishah Laurah Wright. I'll be looking for you in the polls or on the stage. All right, Ishah Laurah Wright. Thank you so much for being a part of the What Makes You Famous podcast. I appreciate talking to you so much. Always a good time. Always a learning experience. She's got the passion. You got the passion and the fearlessness to get your words out there. The way you see things, and I like that so much. It starts the conversation, and it's good to have people, whether, and I'd like that you like people that are on both sides of the aisles. That was kind of cool. You mentioned Jimmy Carter in the same breath that you mentioned Ronald Reagan, in the same breath that you mentioned George Bush, in the same mention that you mentioned Bill Clinton. So both sides. We're not just one thing. I agree. We're not just one thing. Take care of each other. All right? All right, that's it for this edition of What Makes You Famous. If you, now I'm turning my attention to you, would like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email keysdan@aol.com. That's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.